You must be currently in the position where you've almost tried everything, every tip, every drill, and no matter how hard you try, you just cannot for some strange reason clear your hips in the downswing. Well, this could be simply because something is stopping you from clearing your hips in the first place. Well, there is, and that's going to be talking about in today's video. Now, this right here is called the precision impact. It makes what I'm about to show you, the trick, so much easier to add into your golf swing. We've had great success already with my students, and I'm currently using this in my own practice also. It's that good. And after watching this video, you'd like to take a further look into this, I'll leave the discount code here, and the link for this will be in the description below the video. So when we start the downswing, attempting to clear the hips, two things would usually take place. As we bring the club down, the shoulders would begin to follow the hips on the way down, and the second thing being the wrist angle that I've set here with my trail wrist, that would start to hinge outwards, unhinge during the downswing, pushing the club more outwards. So what do you do from this point? You physically got no chance of hitting the golf ball from this point, so you extend the body. You stop the rotation from taking place to allow yourself time to make decent contact with that golf ball, dragging that club back inwards and also seeing this flippy impact position. So what we want to be able to see is this trail wrist maintaining this angle and the shoulders working on more of a angular motion as opposed to a lateral motion following the hips. And this is where the precision impact comes in very handy. So what this aid here allows us to do is set the wrist, the trail wrist in particular, all the way up to the top of the swing. And then from there, as we start the downswing, we cannot get ourselves out of this angle. It's set into that angle. So look at what happens when I start to move my shoulders in the correct way. So my trail shoulder in particular, working downwards to form this angular motion. And I take the club from the very top of the swing and start to do this and perform this action here. It really allows me to start to work the shoulders correctly, get that hinged position with the hands, opening up the hips massively from me holding this angle and working my shoulders in the correct motion. Now that's the move right there that's going to really help you clear those hips in the downswing. But how can you build this into your own golf swing? Well, just before we look into that, if you are new to the channel, this is one of your first videos of mine, welcome. I'm Harry, a golf teach professional specializing in helping you play better golf. So if you do take these tips and drills on board, consider hitting that subscribe button, as there's lots more coming your way and it's totally free to do. So for this first part of the drill, it's understanding how you can get yourself working those shoulders correctly on this more angular motion as opposed to getting too lateral and allowing those shoulders to follow the hips. As I mentioned before, that's the tendency that we start to see a lot of golfers make as they attempt to fire those hips. And this happens simply because of something called disassociation. And professional golfers have a lot of disassociation, and it's the ability to separate the shoulders and the hips in the golf swing. If you were to do the test and place the club across your shoulders, see if you can twist your hips either side without moving the shoulders. And if you do feel a lot of tension there and the shoulders wanting to move and start to see that golf club move either side, that's a great indication that that is probably happening in your golf swing. Your downswing in particular, you're probably getting this motion here of those shoulders moving more laterally. So to understand and get them working more on this angular motion that we see a lot of the tour players do, where they'll get to the very top of the swings, maintain their spine angle here on this almost 45-degree angle, and as they work their way down into the golf ball, as they get this turn of the hip moving away from the golf ball, and this turn, we wouldn't see the butt end of the club work almost towards the wall and follow the hip. We would see that butt end of the club start to go upwards. And you can see as I start to rehearse this movement from the top of the swing, turning that hip, but allowing my shoulders to work more upwards, getting that butt end of the club to face upwards towards the ceiling, you can see how that's allowing me to keep in my posture, this 45-degree angle that we had from the top of the backswing, but it also encourages the trail shoulder, as I mentioned earlier, to work on the correct motion, working downwards as this lead shoulder starts to lift upwards. That's a great method to help anyone out there as well, by the way, stop any of that casting motion. And that brings us into the second bit, which is setting the trail wrist in the correct position. So what we see a lot of golfers do is as they make their way into the top of the backswing, they will allow the takeaway point to start to see, we'll usually see the palm face towards the sky at this position here. The first part being the takeaway. Well, if I was to take the club on like this here, look what that causes. It encourages me there to open the club face massively. So it's this rolling of the wrist effect that we see. If I was to take my right palm off there, work it upwards, my right palm isn't hinged at all. So if I was to start moving the shoulders, even on the correct motion here, and I take the club in my hands, look at how open there that club face is. Way too open. So we're still going to have to try and flip at things at impact. We want to be able to see that club face ever so slightly more closed, because then from there we can encourage more rotation, more forward shaft lean to help you square things up. We can't from an open club face. So what I want you to do is, whether you go ahead and have a look into the precision impact or not, is try this drill. You're going to set the hand with the palm facing towards the target. You can move the club away. I'm just going to hold on to it for now just because it's here. I'm just going to allow my trail wrist to set so the palm faces towards the ground. And as I'm doing this here, you can see that my elbow, my trail elbow, is still facing towards the body. We don't want to see any of this internal rotation to start that golf swing, because then from there, we can't fold the arm in the correct position. We can't allow this to fold naturally, and it's going to get a bit disconnected. So have the palm facing away from you first, just to ensure that that trail arm is getting set into position, getting that elbow facing towards the body, then just twist the wrist back like so. Hinging upwards, I'm allowing a bit of rotation of the body to get myself into this first point. And if I was just to take the club now and grip it from that point, look at where the club face is here. It's on this more angular motion with the spine angle. It's pretty much parallel to one another on this 45-degree angle. So as I return the club back to the ball, I can allow for rotation. I have to rotate to be able to square things up with that club face. So what we're doing here is we are creating fundamentals in your golf swing that are going to make you react to have to force more rotation to take place. That is the trick. Those two things are going to apply into this one move that's going to help you perform the trick into keeping those hips rotating and firing those hips out the way. So using the precision impact and performing that same movement, what this allows me to do is feel those clicks taking place to set that angle that I've told you to perform for that first part. As I make my way up to the top of the swing, it allows me to hold this angle here and have that palm facing more towards the sky. That's the key. From this point here, we're holding the angle and we're just simply rotating the body all the way up to the top of the swing. But from the very top of the swing, my trail shoulder is working downwards as my lead shoulder lifts upwards. Imagine that club again being across the shoulders for that first drill. It's allowing me then to perform this angular motion of the shoulders as opposed to letting them follow the hips laterally. So now, as I begin to do this, what you should feel is as this shoulder movement and wrist setting starts to take place, automatically you'll be able to feel your lead hip firing out the way, which is a bit of a strange feeling because it happens automatically. It's not something that I'm having to force here at all. I'm just simply getting to the top of my swing and turning the hips round just from me feeling that lead shoulder lifting upwards as my trail shoulder goes down. If I was to take my lead hand back on the club there, we're in the perfect impact position to make great contact and perform consistent golf shots. So building this up into all-in-one motion, we've got those two movements, combining the two in very slow swings. As you start to build this up, however, it is going to get harder and harder to hold the angle. So this is where the big difference comes in when using the precision impact. So you can't physically get out of the angle when simply using this. Just to begin with, I'm going to hit just a little shot here, full swing, but I'm going to attempt to hit it around 40 to 50 yards. Working my way up to the top, setting the angle, feeling that lead shoulder lift upwards as my trail shoulder goes downwards. And if you're not using this, you'll just have to exaggerate the feeling of keeping the trail wrist set into that position that we had you working on at the start of the swing. Okay, well that's probably a lot longer than 50 yards, but for me then it just felt like I could start to work my body and my arms all in one sync and on a connected motion, as opposed to feeling two opposites there at the shoulders working and my arms having to react in that downswing. So building this up again from 50 yards, the feeling of 50 yards, let's call it, to working my way up to 75, 100, 125, and then 150. Okay, so 150 mark. 8 iron, not really fully warmed up just yet, so I'm going to push that to be almost my full swing, 100% at this one. And that was my straightest one. It's interesting how I've been able to hit it straighter the further and faster I've swung the club. This has definitely helped with that. I mean, look at that, I can't get out of that position. We can clearly see there that in impact, that's made a big difference there for me, keeping my hands ahead of the club, keeping this hinged position in my trail wrist, along with the movement of the shoulders working more on the angular motion as opposed to the lateral, is what's going to get you firing those hips in your downswing. There's the trick. Go and give us a try and comment down below to let me know how you get on from watching this. Precision Impact, if you are going to start trying this into your own golf game, link for that will be in the description below. Discount code is here. I'll also leave my other links to my coaching materials, online and in-person lessons down here at the Golf Projects. And be sure to check out this video over here if you're looking for more tips on helping you with the downswing.